is a pleasure to be part of this conversation and to welcome our distinguished panelists from Lakir, hākārā, the Peshawar Review, and the Indus Auguries. I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to Ananke for bringing us together and for creating a space where we can reflect on the vital work that literary magazines continue to do. I would like to briefly introduce the panelists that are with us today. We have Farah Ali, who's a writer of the novels Telegraphy and The River, the Town, and the short story collection People Want to Live. Her work has been anthologized in the Pushcart Prize and Best Small Fiction and has appeared in Shenandoah, Kenyan Review, Ecotone, Virginia Quarterly Review, and elsewhere. She's the co-founder of Lakir and an editor at Vasafari. We also have with us Ashutosh Potdar, all the way from Pune, India. He's an award-winning Indian writer known for his one-act plays, full-length plays, poems, translations, scholarly writings, and short fiction. He writes both in Marathi and English. Some of his published works include poetry, a poetry collection that is called Khel Khilat Raha To Ambra. He's also the publisher and editor of hākārā, an independent bilingual journal published online in Marathi and English. We have with us Dr. Anjum Altaf as well. He's an editor at the Peshawar Review. He's the author of 2 volumes of poems, Transgressions and More Transgressions, which was inspired by Faiz Ahmed Faiz. The co-author is Amit Basole from Thinking with Ghalib, Poetry for a New Generation. His most recent publication is a modern introduction to Indian music and other essays with a primer on the physics of sound. He has a PhD from Stanford University and was Dean of the School of Humanities and Social Sciences at the Lahore University of Management Sciences. I would like to thank all of you for being here, for taking out the time, and I would also like to thank Ananke for providing this platform for us.
Pakistan, everything is concentrated in the 3 big cities, and all the rest of the cities, of which there are many, most of them are not known, or they are known for some negative stereotype. In the case of our city, Peshawar, it's known all over the world for violence. So there was a desire on my part to start something that would present a different side of the city, to let people know that normal life goes on there. People have interests, they wish to express themselves. So that was one of the main reasons. The other was that I wanted to create a stepping stone for people in the city and in smaller cities to be able to get the confidence where they could submit their writings to more well-established journals. At the step from where they are to where the major publications are is too great. And for me, one of the major motivations was to start something where we could have a conversation between Indians and Pakistanis, because all other avenues are now blocked, and this is the kind of platform where we can continue to talk to each other. So these were the main reasons that the Peshawar Review was initiated.
Right. Thank you so much. We can go on to Farah Ali, please.
Yeah. Hello again. So about 3 years ago, a friend of mine and I, we started Lakir magazine. It was a very spur of the moment decision, and he was somebody I'd studied with years ago, and he's a poet. Nadir Khan, that's the co-founder. He's a poet, and so we felt very strongly the urge that there should be a place of publication jahan pe Pakistani voices get to have access to being able to be edited, being able to be published, to enter that whole cycle of कि आपने अपना काम submit किया है. Then it gets, then a bunch of editors look at it, and then if selected, फिर उस पे मजीद काम होता है, and then it gets published. So the whole process. So we were really convinced about that, and since then we've had, I think we're about to launch our 8th issue this summer, and it's all digital. But we've also grown alongside into having a mentorship program. This year was the 2nd year of the mentorship program, which is free to access for the mentees, and they are based out of Pakistan. again, the whole idea is there are really nice mentorship programs out there from other places. They can, when you convert dollars to rupees, Pakistani rupees, it's just untenable. कि Pakistan से कोई बैठ के afford करे. And why should the barrier be so high? So we've got lovely mentors and great mentees. We've also got an internship program. Again, we're students with a connection to Pakistan, get to work with the journal for a whole year. And we've got a lovely translation column. So overall, it's kind of growing. We always have ideas, but every year we have to say, let's focus on what we have because the ideas are so exciting. So while the main magazine, Lakeer magazine, that publishes works by Pakistani writers or Pakistani translators, the other columns, they are more in conversation with work elsewhere via translations or something else. So that's what we've been doing so far.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Maria, for inviting me for this conversation. Yes, so we have been running hākārā since 2017, since last 9 years. So the whole idea has been since then to kind of bring together different languages. So when we started it in 2017, I mean, when we started conceptualizing it, we realized that there is no platform that could connect each of us. In a sense, I have been writing in Marathi all the time. But at the same time, I also talk to people or writers, artists from other languages, Hindi, Kannada, English, and so on. But unfortunately, we realized there is no kind of platform that could kind of bring together these people. So that was the kind of first impulse to start hākārā. Also, I have been playwriting all the time. I've been also involved in theater making. I've been translating from Marathi to English and English to Marathi. We also realized that there is no kind of interdisciplinary space that could communicate to each other. So I have been growing in the context in India where multilingual spaces are very natural. We talk to each other very easily. There is also very much interdisciplinarity in a sense in our work also, especially in theater, performance making, like one has to communicate across different disciplines. But then there was no platform. So we thought of bringing together bilingual space. I mean, I wish we could have different other languages besides Marathi and English, but practically that's not possible. But when we thought that we have expertise in Marathi and English, why not to start? And also since we all have been coming from literature, drama, theater, visual arts, so we thought of focusing on the disciplines. So third point that we thought was very important while conceptualizing and even running this magazine journal is that we wanted to bring together creative and research space or critical spaces. We feel that and we believe that the idea of creativity cannot be thought in isolation, or critical spaces of this critical engagement cannot be minus creative engagement. So the idea has been to combine different languages, bring together different languages and create a kind of space of dialogue. Also bring in different disciplines together, and also bring in this kind of practice and research together. So you will see the way hākārā has been kind of curated. We kind of think in terms of how different contributions coming to hākārā could speak to each other. And then, of course, I mean, we will talk about how we engage in the editorial process, which is a very theme-based process. But yes, basically at the core of it is how you bring in these kind of dialogic spaces in a journal. And bring in conversations across disciplines and domains.
Okay, wonderful. I'll talk about the Indus Auguries a little bit. I would say that it was primarily inspired by my students because in Islamabad, we get to have students from all across Pakistan. And there was a lot of exposure, which I didn't have initially as a Punjabi who was, from central Punjab. And I felt that their stories were so important. And there wasn't a space where all of them could be sharing their languages or, just the stories that they were telling. There were too much gatekeeping at certain spaces. So, and we wanted to give it the title that talked about what is the future of this area. So that is where me and the co-founder, we decided that the Indus Auguries, because the stories, they flow like the river. And then rivers have been at the background lately for the past few years because of the ecological crisis as well. So the stories that were emerging from different areas, they were both beautiful and tragic at the same time. But I felt that there was no space where all of them are coming together. So we have spaces which we have regional literature. We have a section for regional literature in which you can, send works which are in any language, in Pashto, in Punjabi, in Sindhi. And then we have the visual arts section, which has been really, I think that section has been the most popular because I was really excited because we're not putting any bar to what kind of material that is coming across. Of course, there's the editorial process where we do, check material and all, but like age is not an issue. Your theme is not an issue. You can just talk about that sense of freedom that it was generating for everybody. Another issue was that I felt that most of the students, even, despite all this talk about decolonization and all, they were still writing stories which were very, which were inspired by the Western literature that they had read. Abhi tak unki kahaniyon ke main titles ke naam Jane ya Peter ya Harry and Hermione, that kind of thing was coming across. So basically, it was to encourage people to talk about themselves in languages that matter to them. So simply put, that was the reason we came up with this. And we've only had 3 volumes yet so far, but we're hoping to expand and, have a bigger outreach soon, inshallah. So yeah, we can. That's about the magazines and everything. I think we can just get right into the conversation, and then if we can continue the same sequence of who goes first, and wherever you want to, hold somebody into conversation, you can pitch in. I think we can start by some of the editorial practices that your magazine has been adopting for documenting literary traditions, but at the same time also encouraging new forms, new voices, and new ways of expression. We can start by Dr. Anjum and then same sequence, yeah?
Want me to start?
Or whoever wants to go first.
Sure. Well, okay. Anybody else to go first is welcome.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll go. No problem. So when we started, conceptualizing hākārā, and since last 9 years we have been doing it. What we thought is we wanted to. I mean, of course, there are institutionally supported writers, researchers, scholars across India, but we wanted to also focus on independent artists. In a way, they are not supported by any institution, say either some university, college, or some other organized. So we thought, and what we also realized that there might be a kind of case of, or there might be cases of, not being articulate enough to kind of share their artistic process. And that's where, what we thought, like our editorial engagement has to be in such a way that we could encourage those people who are not very much well equipped with the kind of, articulation or say intellectual discourses around. For instance, say visual artists. So visual artists might want to write about his own work, but might be possible that they might not have that kind of vocabulary. But then we also look at the different possibilities of how one can articulate. It doesn't have to be a kind of academic essay or very typically written quote-unquote non-academic essay. One could also talk about processes in a very kind of first-person narrative, or that there could be also embedding of different visuals, or one could just talk about methodology. So there are different ways of engagement with the. So in a way, there is no kind of fixed format as such when we engage with our contributors. Before anything else, we give out a call for submission. So each call has certain theme, and then we ask for submissions. So calls are a little bit described, not much. We give a paragraph or so. And interestingly, sometimes people also respond to the call and they write. So in a way, it's a both ways. So sometimes they have some ready material already been kind of written down, expressed, or visually created, but it's not published. So of course, we consider only unpublished works. But sometimes we get very exciting stories from writers and artists, how they are encouraged or enabled by this call. And there are a large number of people around us who want to wait for our call, and then kab aa raha hai Ashutosh call aapka, and batao, I want to give it a try. And interestingly, we receive large number of submissions, and then we have to also do a lot of reviewing process. We also give out for reviews. We do all these things, but then it's not just you are accepted or you are not accepted. The point is that if you are not accepted, what is the thing? And point is, if you are accepted, then is there any kind of engagement? What I realized as a writer, many of us don't get enough response feedback from editors. So we try to give response feedback to kind of response feedback to the writers and artists. So we kind of accept and curate hākārā thrice in a year in such a way that there is a kind of dialogue between different contributions. So there are different 6 sections, but then एक सेक्शन होता है वो जो नैरेटिव स्टोरीज के बारे में होता है, एक सेक्शन इज अबाउट विजुअल फॉर्म, एक सेक्शन इज अबाउट रिफ्लेक्शन और व्हाट यू कॉल वेरी some sort of research writing, but we make it sure that different contributions talk to each other, and there is some kind of again, as I've been saying, there is some kind of what you call, there is a space to build on. So basically this is what we do within editorial process. And of course, I'm not only one who is involved in the editorial process. There are different people, there are different artists, there are different kind of researchers, writers who may or may not be connected to hākārā, but then we bring them to the review process, and we request them. And of course, as the kind of trajectory of hākārā, I just connect myself with little magazine movements in India in 60s and 70s. And that's where we are not able to pay anyone. We don't have funding. So usually I have to also go out to seek support from my friends, from अरे यार इस time के लिए दे दो आप. And then touch wood, but last 9 years, no one has said no. So they have been helping us. And also there is a sense of community. चलो आप इतने साल से कर रहे हो तो we'll help you. So that is the kind of thing that so we are not a registered body, we are nothing. Like we people came together and then we have been doing it. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, funding is a serious issue, especially when you need technical things to be fixed, and so yeah. But you're doing great work, and I think having this sense of community is one of the key things that gets these magazines going. And all right.
And Pura funding, and also you have to create the kind of space for management. Like, पूरा लगाना पड़ता है उसके काम के लिए कि किसने दिया, क्या दिया, कौन दिया. So, but basically, we are glad that we get support from people. Of course, we wish we could, because some of them are not supported anywhere. They do only for hākārā. So, but still, they are doing it, and so there is certain flexibility also. Although we kind of plan our issues every year, properly, there is a kind of professional thing there, but then there is also flexibility. We wait for someone, and then if that person is not in, then we again wait for some other person.
Right.
So that kind
of. Okay, thank you. Dr. Anjum, would you like to go next, please? You're muted, please. Let me.
Yeah, he's mute.
Dr. Anjum, can you unmute yourself? I can't do it from this end. There you
go. Is it okay now?
Yes, sir. It's fine.
Okay. So Maria, look, these little magazines have always been there. Before the digital age, there used to be little magazines in print form. So in that sense, the way a magazine works is not very different. I mean, you ask for submissions, people submit, you do some editing, you send back suggestions, and then finally things get published. So there's nothing new in that sense. I think what is new at the moment is that this digital platform has provided a lot of democratization. So a lot more people can now participate in these conversations. They're not just a handful of publications, then you have to submit to them. And most of the time you get rejected, especially from places like our country. So the exciting part of it is that it's democratic. A lot more people can write, contribute, and be heard. The downside of this globalization, I feel, is that there is too much homogenization. If the content is beginning to get similar, especially with now that you have AI, people are beginning to think alike. So that we have been conscious of that, and we feel that there is a need to maintain that diversity, to allow local voices to reach outside of that particular region. So one of the things that we have done at the Peshawar Review is that for non-fiction, we don't take anything that is impersonal or written in a third person. To give you an example, for instance, there might be, let's say, a book by Toni Morrison, and somebody writes a review of what the book is about. But there is no reason for anybody to come to the Peshawar Review to read a review of Toni Morrison's book. You can go to the New York Review of Books or the London Review or Los Angeles Review, etc., etc. So for our non-fiction, we have made this a condition that the submissions have to be very, very personal. So, for instance, what does reading Toni Morrison mean to you in Peshawar? Right? How does it impact you? What do you connect it with? How does a writing impact you? So we have a very, very local perspective on global literature or global events. So that is something that I feel is unique to the Peshawar Review. Then we are very experimental, so we have not pre-decided a form that everybody has to subscribe to. We don't have a template. We have allowed it to evolve on its own, depending on what people submit, what they are comfortable talking about, what is received well in the market. So visual art has become quite a major input into our magazine. And we have now a lot of audio readings of translations. So which in today's age, they are, they seem to be doing better than people just reading something, of hearing it, especially if you have it in a good voice, trying to think of an icon like Zia Mohyuddin. People used to queue up for hearing him read literature. So that's a successful part of our magazine that's doing well. Then what is new for Pakistan, Lakir might be doing it because it's outside, but we give fairly detailed feedback, editorial feedback to our writers. And the first time we did it, the writers themselves were very surprised. They said, well, we are just used to a yes-no answer. Nobody gives editorial feedback on how you can improve. So one of my objectives is to train a whole new generation in the tasks that are required to bring out a magazine. So how to solicit, how to edit, how to copy edit, how to give editorial feedback, how to solicit articles, how to communicate, so that, there is a whole cohort that is trained in these tasks. I mean, if you look back to the 1940s, and you look at Urdu magazines like Nukush or, Adbe Latif, the editorial process was very, very good. You had people like Mira Ji and Ismat Chughtai and Krishan Chandar as editors. And if you read the accounts, they're very extensive editorial feedback. Nowadays in Pakistan, there is virtually no editorial feedback. You send something to a magazine, like say the magazine for newspapers, whatever you send gets published. Most of it reads, serious editorial input. So we are trying to train a cohort in what the tasks that are required to bring out a magazine that. And as I said before, because of the democratization, now anybody can start a magazine. Right? How do you distinguish between noise and something that is of quality? There you need the editorial filter. We don't want to be really a gatekeeper, but we need to ensure the quality that will make a magazine like, something that people look forward to, they want to read. So those are the tasks that we are involved with at the TPR. And of course, the print nowadays, print requires a lot of money. You can't do it without funding. It's become too expensive. I know when I was a child in our home, we used to get Times, Life, Reader Digest, all these magazines used to come and we used to read them. But now the cost is prohibitive.
Right, it is. Yeah, thank you. I absolutely agree with you about the editorial feedback, because that is something we at the Indus Auguries, we're trying to do something along those lines, other than just a polite, message that our magazine is not the right home for you, but we do give feedback, and I think that's really going to make a difference. Farah.
It's been really interesting hearing all the ways the magazine's jobs are running are different, and the ways in which they are similar. So a similarity that I'm seeing is how we're all trying to work consciously, intentionally with a younger, newer generation, basically. Unko bajaye, instead of keeping them behind, ke bas aap kaam submit karo, and then, in our various ways. So for Lakir, well, I think this is a question for later in the panel, but I want to ask how does everyone manage their workflow? Because sabki jobs hoti hain, sabki families hain, I'm guessing. So there's responsibilities. And then running a journal is a whole different thing. So after my 9 to 5, well, 9 to 5 is done. It's kind of like having a second 9 to 5.
Yeah.
But keeping that in mind, giving individual editorial feedback is not something we can do at Lakeer, because we get a lot of submissions and we have columns and we have the issues themselves. And because our team is spread over the world, including Pakistan, and again, with Hariki, keeping everyone's time in mind, it's unfair of me and the other editors to ask each other, yeah, before you reject, like give a small paragraph, because every extra thing done is time taken. But what our ways of engaging with people, with the writers, the way is we have our mentorship program, like I said, where every year we get, well, this is our second year, we get up to, second year running, I think we had close to 100 entries. And, we have a lot of participants with amazingly competitive writing. And Hamisha, I'm amazed at the things that people sitting back home for me is Pakistan, the things that they're concerned with, jo unka angle of what they call political or the way they want to write, is so different from what the Western publishing world thinks should be our concerns. Or yeah, hum ek hi angle se apni politics ko dekhen. But people back home are concerned with the politics of space, which gender has access to space, obviously class issues, religious masle or whatever. So, but they come at those things from a very different perspective, and it's all very exciting. So our mentorship program, we work with all these amazing budding writers, and we make sure that they are of an age group jahan pe, they don't feel discouraged. Okay, this is a path that could be taken, that they feel encouraged, because growing up, I didn't have anything like that. Sitting in Pakistan, I was reading jo bhi mere haath aata tha, Urdu, English, but that's fine. Reading is its own teaching in a way, but it's great that we have. It's exciting to see that we have interested mentees. Uske alawa, we have our columns where Hamad Rind is our brilliant translation editor, and he runs this translation column called Awaz, where he works with minoritized languages. So, unka pehla column was a connection between Punjabi and Urdu, Punjabi and Welsh, because Punjabi in Pakistan is considered, like Urdu is the main pushed language. So, baki zabaneं jo hain, unko background mein rakha jata hai. So that's Awaz. We have this column called Chalk, which is quicker turnaround, quicker feedback, slightly shorter pieces. And that's run by Rabia Malik, who is also working full-time in Pakistan and doing this. Kudos to her energy. And then we've got this column called Poetic Renditions, which is a comparative translation column. And that also brings into conversation different poets from different languages across the world into a language spoken in Pakistan. But this segues into what we also do at Lakeer is we don't only publish in Urdu and English. हमारी कोशिश है कि हम at least जो हमारी editorial team का जहाँ तक scope है of languages, तो सिंधी, सराइकी, बलोची, या जो भी ज़बान है, वो exactly गुजराती, वो सब, we would love to get more submissions in those. That is something जो obviously going forward. We will, I think हमें strategy change करनी होगी of how to reach, क्योंकि again the सवाल is कि access किसके पास है internet का, as available as it seems, it's still not a lot of people who have access, or knowledge of कि अच्छा ये जगह है जहाँ पे अपना काम हम publish कर सकते हैं. So these are all, like I said, we have a lot of ideas, a lot of exciting avenues to explore, and funding, which Ashutosh Saab mentioned, is a big sawal hanging over our heads. But we are in our third year running, and I think sometime last year we did officially register ourselves in the UK. And yeah, it is a whole thing, like you mentioned. Like, it's like a pile of lifafe that have come from the government body for addressed to Lakir. So the first few lifafe were very excited, like, oh, look, we have an official. And then the next lifafe were like, oh my God, this is so scary. It's a lot of official paperwork to stay on top of, while staying on top of the submissions, the editing, following up, वगैरह वगैरह. But I mean, when I do get around to doing Lakir ka kaam in any part of my day, I mean, I'm always very optimistic. And when I'm done with my job, raat ke 8 baje, I'll have capacity. But oh my God, I can't. So my Lakir days are generally end of the week. And then I don't know where the time goes because it's exciting working with people. It feels like apne log, so to speak, like they can mention places, events, language things without having to explain कि अच्छा आपका मतलब क्या था, is phrase say, yeah, what are you referring to? They don't have to explain that. Because sometimes as a writer, with editors who are not Pakistani, I do have to explain, which is fine, but मुझे कभी समझाना पड़ता है कि अच्छा ये नमाज का वक्त है, or this is what we have, this is what we eat. Right. And it is not unusual or wrong if like our societies are set up in a certain way, all those things. So it's exciting that our people from writers from back home don't have to explain those things.
Right. I really enjoyed your section trunk call जो है आपका, वो भी I like the format and the way it's curated, but very interesting है वो भी, especially आजकल when you were not the young lot especially, they're not familiar with the concept of the trunk call, and WhatsApp के voice notes पे conversation चल रही होती हैं, so वो मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा and I thought it's very powerful. Okay, Dr. Anjum mentioned AI. That's like a real major issue these days. We had that Granta controversy, just a few, like weeks ago. How do you guys deal with that? And like, I know we all have a policy probably where we don't encourage material which is AI, which has used AI for editing or whatever reasons. So how are you handling AI content and ensuring that आपके पास जो material आ रहा है वो human है, because the students, young ones especially, they have like tools and softwares जो humanize करती हैं AI को, and so it's kind of, I think if you could walk us through your process of ensuring कि AI content कैसे check कर रहे हैं आप लोग, and whoever wants to take the question.
I think for myself, because my full-time job is at a journal. And then when I'm done with that, I go back to the other journal. So everywhere we are just talking about this, I would really want to call it a menace, because it really deletes a lot of critical thinking. It makes it very lazy to write a piece. It makes it lazy to write an email, AI access to it. So conclusion is that the only way you can make it, the technology, unfortunately, will keep on getting better at it. And like you said, Maria, it will, wo tariqe aa gaye ke you prompt dalo, it'll generate something, and then you stick it somewhere else and it'll humanize it. So aap apne bas, you either keep chasing AI detectors, or at the same time, you just have to become really, really, really clever at picking out, or you have to develop your sense of what feels off. And a lot of our editorial staff are also teachers of creative writing. So I think we have to turn on those sensors. When they're picking out AI in their work, they bring that same experience to picking out AI in our submissions, for example. Right. And occasionally it does happen. 1 in 20 times we might be wrong. Because wo bhi hota hai. But I mean, it hasn't really happened. But agar koi cheez AI generated hai, so then we'll just give the feedback. I mean, feedback is a generous word. Just tell them that we don't support AI generated writing. So it's just a lot of reading that sharpens your senses, I think.
Yeah, I think I think most of us are from the teaching domain. That does help because you're coming across so many manuscripts which the students have written. So you do kind of sharpen your senses at picking out what is human and what is not. So yeah, definitely.
Actually, I haven't faced, I mean, the kind of major issue yet. Because one thing, I think it also depends on what kind of form that we are adopting for the writing or for publishing. So basically, it's a very interdisciplinary. There are also crossovers of different languages, different visual expressions, and then that becomes challenge for someone to use AI in that, like, so you can also, as you rightly said, like, since we come from teaching, so we have to also face this situation on everyday basis. So basically, I have also started doing this, like, okay, in the first few lectures, I asked them to use AI and do some writing. Rather than, kind of asking them, well, why are you doing it? And then, these things. Instead, like, we understand the kind of role of AI in our lives today. So why not to start with AI itself and then go back to human experience, human expression? I think that has helped a lot. We can also identify what is AI driven work and what is not AI driven work. Also, another thing that since I think my understanding is that there is a Marathi language, and Marathi is not a kind of singular language. In a way, there are varieties of Marathi, and still I believe that AI hasn't been able to pick up those varieties in Marathi. So for Marathi writing, editorial process becomes very easy, but also difficult because the kind of submission that we receive from Marathi writers, they are very diverse. They also are from different regions, different professions. And Marathi is very fluid language that can change as per gender, as per profession, as per region. So I think that's the space where I think AI hasn't been able to still, like, enter and see what can be done. So these are also some of the areas where we are addressing AI that way. Yeah.
Right.
ठीक है, जैसे मैंने आपसे पहले कहा था कि हमने जितने भी हमारी नॉन फिक्शन है उसको हम थर्ड पर्सन इम्पर्सनल चीज़ें नहीं लेते. हमारी वो ये है कि थिंग्स हैव टू बी वेरी वेरी पर्सनल, एंड विच मेक्स इट very difficult to use AI because the AI cannot read into your mind and know your experience beforehand. So that's a good filter. I find it's working. Poetry, of course, is very easy to figure out. And prose also, you have a short story, you can tell most of the time. Especially given the state where the Pakistani writers are. If something reads much too fluently and is reading, American terms, you can tell that there's been some assistance. So I haven't had much difficulty so far.
Okay, that's great. In the conversation, I see the word translation keeps on appearing, and I understand that translation does, it's kind of like a linchpin that connects and holds different languages together. So if you can just talk about your experience that you've had with word translation, works that are translated, or the kind of material that you're receiving in that section. And also, Dr. Anjum, your camera is not working. Is that by choice, or we can't see you anymore?
No. I don't know. Something keeps happening to this.
Right. 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 So we can talk. Yes, you're back. You're with us again.
Okay.
So
okay. Okay. Translations. I think for me, translations are extremely important because all new ideas are now coming into the country in a foreign language. And if we want people to have access to them, we have to translate them. Very few, 5% of the people can read English at a level where they can comprehend a long essay, for example. So translation is vital process in our educational process. So we try and encourage as much translation as we can, both from English and from our regional languages, so that people can get connected to each other. Last issue, we had a poem from the Torwali language, which is a really endangered language from Swat.
Yes.
Translated into English. So that's an important part of our work.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, of course, translation between Marathi and English, but also outside Marathi, outside English. So we also encourage translation from different other languages, maybe Telugu, Kannada, different other languages. We work at two levels. One is we want to build discourse around different kind of visual art studies practices, and also theater studies practices, literary studies, culture studies. So what we thought, like, this is the best, one of the best ways of doing it through translation. So a few years back, we were supported by Sharjah Art Foundation based in UAE to kind of edit an anthology of art writing in Marathi, and then get it translated into English and create a volume, and that was published by Sharjah Art Foundation itself. So that way we could kind of what we call build bridges between different languages and different discourses. So we could also talk to different other scholars and practitioners in Sharjah and share with them, like, what had happened in Marathi writing. Especially we focus on modern art practices emerged during 1930s and 20s and 40s, especially during progressive art movement. So that is one thing. We are looking at the building of discourse in Marathi and English, and also, kind of talk to each other. Second thing is also, I think we believe in a kind of role of pedagogy at hākārā. So the material published on hākārā is also kind of material for different university and college students and teachers, where they can access the material which is freely available, and that way there is also pedagogy involved. So as Farah is doing, we are not into mentorship program, but then we are trying in different ways, like, how we can build this kind of space where, for instance, we can ask theater maker from, say, different other languages, and then they talk about their creative process, their theater making process, or visual artists, they can also talk about their own creative process and get it translated into Marathi as well as English. So this becomes for us a space to kind of build a dialogue across different disciplinary practices as well. So these are two, and of course, as a Marathi reader and writer, I'm very much interested in translating from Marathi to English. So I have been also doing at my own level personally. I have been translating Marathi stories or Marathi non-fictional work from Marathi to English. Of course, vice versa is also happening. So in a way, that is also space where we can also support local, I don't like to call local writer, but yes, those writers who are writing in Marathi and different other languages. Yeah.
Right. Farah, would you like to say something about translations and how your magazine deals with it?
Translations, like I said, we have a poetic renditions column, jo comparative translations publish karta hai, where we invite an editor to work with the column. They will choose a poem, preferably a short poem, written in whatever language. But and then we will invite 3 to 4 writers to translate that same poem into one other same language. The only thing is that in this equation of translated and the original work, ek zaban should be something spoken in Pakistan. So इससे फिर ये होता है that it just gives us like a language nerd high कि you know, you see the same line interpreted in slightly different ways and translated in a slightly different way. It's just really cool. So we've worked with Naomi Shihab Nai's poetry, John Elias poetry, um, Iftikhar Arif's poetry, and like a lot. I think we've got 8 columns of this out now. So, and then the translators also are invited to write like a brief note. कि उनका process क्या था, how they, whatever they want to write. कि उनको मुश्किल क्या लगा, आसान क्या लगा, or did they find the whole thing useless? Whatever they want to discuss.
Right.
So this gives us like a really great way to keep on a very language level things in conversation with each other. So and then we've got, like I mentioned, Avaz, our translations column. But uske alawa, Lakeer magazine also publishes things in translation, where we preferred that their translator is a translator with a connection to Pakistan. And you know, we strive के permission वगैरह मिली भी हो ताकि बाद में मसला ना हो. But the languages that we work in are limited to the languages spoken, like I said, collectively by the team. But I think our translation editor is quite brilliant because he speaks like a lot of languages. So I think he speaks up to 11.
Whoa, that's something.
So we've got a lot of our bases covered.
You do.
I want to say I may make a couple of comments on what Farah has been saying. The first was about the time, saying how do people with 9 to 5 jobs are able to manage this. I think one of the great advantages of a digital medium is that you can get an issue out with a minimal number of entries. Unlike print, where the cost of printing small volumes and the cost of printing very few pages is extremely high. So if you look at the print magazines, they would at least have 15, 20 essays, poetries, short stories, etc., in order to make an issue. But online, you can go with 4 pieces. If some month you just have 3, you can go online. That's okay. So I think that way it's a big help for people who have a scarce amount of time. The other comment, I'm a little bit intrigued on the translation, because I think that if you restrict a translation to a line-by-line translation, you are always going to run into huge problems. You're going to get literal translations. For instance, I think that one of the reasons that Faiz Ahmad Faiz is outside the Urdu Hindi sphere is not as well known as Neruda, for example, is because the translations are pretty bad. They're all literal line-by-line translations, written as if the translations are written for people who already know the language. And can say, wow, this is what he said in this line, but this is what you are saying. Whereas when we read poetry from any other languages, I mean, read Vikram Seth's 3 Chinese poets. I have no clue what the Chinese had written over there. I just see the poem and I like it. And if it's a good poem, it appeals to me. So I think that I'm really against, for example, translations from Urdu into English, which also have the Urdu side by side. You're not translating for people who already know the language. You are translating for people who don't know the language. So I have some strong feelings about that. I don't know how. I haven't seen a translation in Lakeer, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's why we're very intentional about what we call the column. It's called renditions. Yeah, what is your interpretation or feeling from a poem? And I do encourage you to check out the column, because I think one of my favorite ones is we had 4 poets translating John Elias poetry, and it's very different. And I agree. Literal translations, line by line, word by word, are boring, and that's not what I read. That's not what our team reads. So, but I think translations overall, because I read a lot of translations, I think I think it's a good conversation to have about translations themselves. कि करनी चाहिए, नहीं करनी चाहिए, किस तरह से करनी चाहिए. But yeah.
Yeah, I think karni to chahiye in any case, because that's how you get literature across different languages. So, but yes, of course, good translation, bad translation, how intentional it is. But I've really enjoyed the process. मैंने लकीर वाला ही आपका पढ़ा था, and because I know the language, it really does let you see the kind of input that the translator brings in, and जो translator का role है, or because I do feel that translators keep on, missing the limelight. They're always pushed back. हालांकि उन्होंने बहुत ज़्यादा massive contribution की होती है. So that really does help to see the cognitive processes that have gone into translating a work and turning into another language, and how you kind of give it a new life when you bring it into a new language. So I really enjoyed that. Okay, we are running short of time, but this conversation is so intense. I'm really enjoying all of your inputs. I do want to talk about decolonization. That's one of the areas that I teach also, but because all of our art magazines are using English as the, sort of the main language, and while we are encouraging other languages, how do you feel in the context of decolonization? What are the contributions of the magazines that you're all dealing with? And Dr. Anjum, I would request you to switch on your camera again, because we can't see you.
I don't know why it keeps switching off. I have no idea. Okay.
Right. So yeah, decolonization and what it means in the context of your magazine.
Maria, I said earlier that we want all our writing to be very, very personal, which is rooted in our own context, in our own feelings. So that for us serves as an automatic, deterrent to taking some, mainstream, well-established ideas. I don't think that, at least I haven't found that we need to do much more than that. As long as, it's like that book, Reading Lolita and Tehran. Now, that's the kind of place we are coming from. As long as it's localized, then it reflects our own reality, our own context, and we get away from, and then people start challenging dominant ideas. So I don't think that we really had to think all that much about it.
Okay, great. Anyone else has any comment on that?
I would like to hear from you and Ashutosh Saab as well about how you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, no, but what do you mean by, Maria? What do you mean by decolonization? Like, in which context you are asking this question?
Good question. That I think clarity is needed. Basically, sort of do away with some of those colonial hang-ups that we still have, like our relationship with the English language, and so doing away with those cobwebs of those notions of why English is more important, and we're only considered educated or intellectual if we are able to communicate in English, and how it still maintains that ascendancy over other languages. So usko mind mein rakhte hue, how do we ensure that we are sort of decolonizing and letting the contributors, the people who are coming to our magazine, we're letting them know कि नहीं, ये एक medium है सिर्फ, लेकिन something along those lines.
Right. Yeah. Right. Actually, it's very, deep question. I don't know if I'm addressing all these questions through hākārā, but so, and also, unlike earlier generation, I'm not anti-English in the kind of decolonization process. I'm not saying कि नहीं अंग्रेजी नहीं चाहिए हमें सिर्फ भाषा चाहिए. I'm not of that opinion. Now, what I see in my time, in my generation, is a quote-unquote local native is so much complicated now. It's not very black and white. There are different layers to it. So when I vision hākārā with my team, it's not English or Marathi or English or Hindi or English or Gujarati, English and other language. So also I don't mean like everything is around English, not like that. So I think let's talk about both the languages. Let's talk both, because I cannot just easily dismiss the way earlier generation they did, easily could dismiss, because that's also very post-colonial time. Now it's a post whatever call it, colonial time. Now the thing is that there are also kind of wider thing, and also decolonization. It's not just about language, it's also about practice. It's also about how you look at creative practice, along with research or, intellectual domain, different other intellectual domains. So actually decolonization involves multiple other things. It's also a relationship between prose and poetry. It's also a relationship between literature and performance. It's also a relationship between different languages. And also it's also a relationship between giving voices to multiple other kind of multiple forms. They are not recognized or at the center. So I think, maybe this is not a space where we can debate all those things. But within the journal space, I'm not looking at English as something threat to a language, because also I see English and Marathi both ways. They bring in a kind of different dynamic of global and local. And for me, global and local is not like against each other. It's not versus, but it's also and. So it's basically a constantly fluid space that I'm into. So in a way now, with the kind of currently we are debating on the language of Gen Zs. So in a way, if we are kind of discussing those things, because currently there was some agitation was happening in Delhi, and now we are discussing different kind of languages now. And in that context, I think for me, a larger concern is how do I address the generation, which is far beyond post globalization. So now I think, and that's where, and that's, I think you had a last question about what is this kind of existence of, or what is going to be future of the digital spaces. For now, 9 years down the line, we have also changed. And in a pre-COVID era, when we started magazine hākārā, it was very different, and now it's so different in a post-COVID period. So now I think that's where we have to bring in kind of different debates and come up with some kind of possibilities to sustain with the kind of future of such journals. And the last question about decolonization, I would like to connect it with so now in the decolonization process, we have to also rethink about the nature of literary magazines. They cannot be just quote unquote literary magazines. So we have to also question the idea of literary magazines. So what do we mean by that? It can't be the way little magazines in 60s and 70s that were run. But now we need to also see the nature of literature in contemporary time. I think that's where decolonization process can also push us to think in a kind of different other directions. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. I think Gen Zs have done some significant work because they've brought in their own version of English as well, and then the whole concept of world Englishes that does already poise us in a way where we are definitely doing work which is already decolonized. So I absolutely agree with you. Farah, would you like to add something to this?
No, I was nodding hard at everything that Ashutosh was saying. I was like, yes, all that. Kyunki hum apni tarah, we're making our own rules, we're defining it. Hum English mein bol bhi rahe. We also publish, every one of us, in English. So can't say ke English is lower or lesser. It is a language.
It is a language. It's just a medium.
Do we accept that it's the most widely spoken one? Yes, it's a fact. And we will, I don't know if pushback is the right phrase, but where do we want to spend our energies, basically, you know?
Yeah.
So
true. Right. Is there anything that you feel that we should have discussed but we didn't? I'm open to any questions or anything else you want to add before we wrap up the conversation.
One point because now this is very interestingly Farah and Professor Anjum they are here, and four of us. So is there any way, like, you know, can we look at decolonization in some South Asian context? You know, there is kind of the way of looking at, because there are also, as you started, Maria, saying that Rawalpindi and Pune is closer, like, you know, that kind of thing. That conversation is also exciting in a way, how we can take it forward, because I think that's also people have been talking about global South and global North. So could be in that context, we may want to re-look at and reframe our kind of understanding of our decolonization. I think that could be also exciting.
Yeah, something we can look forward to, and you know,
Yes.
yeah.
आई थिंक कि ये जो डीकोलोनाइजेशन वाला मसला है, इसमें ज़बान का कोई वो ताल्लुक नहीं है
जी, आप बिल्कुल
क्योंकि अगर हम अंग्रेजी को डीकोलोनाइजेशन कहें तो हम यहाँ 4 लोग बैठे हैं जो सब उर्दू और हिंदी जानते हैं, तो हम अंग्रेजी में क्यों बातें कर रहे हैं? तो हमारा जो मैगजीन है वो तो अंग्रेजी में इसलिए है कि हम एक ग्लोबल ऑडियंस के पास अपनी बात पहुंचाना चाह रहे हैं
जी।
ये हमारा मैगजीन सिर्फ हमारे अपने उसके लिए नहीं है, तो इसलिए हम वो ज़बान इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं। और जब तक हम अपनी ज़बान इस्तेमाल करते रहेंगे और अपने ख़यालात का इजहार करते रहेंगे, तो हम उस हद तक डीकोलोनाइज हो जाएंगे। डीकोलोनाइजेशन का मसला वहाँ आता है जहाँ आप जो स्टैंडर्ड्स हैं, अच्छे और बुरे की जो स्टैंडर्ड है, फॉर इंस्टेंस अगर वो आप बाहर से ले लें, व्हाट काउंट्स फॉर अ पोएम फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर आप स्टैंडर्ड ले लें कहीं बाहर का, तो फिर आप कह सकते हैं कि हाँ, यू स्टिल आर लेबरिंग अंडर यू नो द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ कॉलोनाइजेशन। मगर जब हम अपनी बात कर रहे हैं अपनी ज़बान में या अपनी आवाज़ उठा रहे हैं, तो हमारे पर कोई ऐसी कैद नहीं है जो कि हम ये सोचें कि हम कॉलोनाइज्ड हैं।
जी बिल्कुल। आई थिंक इंडस ऑगरीज का भी मकसद यही था कि ये कदगन हम हटा दें कि हमें सिर्फ वेस्टर्न स्टैंडर्ड्स ही को अपने ऊपर हावी करके और उन्हीं के अंदर ऑपरेट करना है। तो नहीं, बिल्कुल आप सही कह रहे हैं, आई एग्री विथ यू। If there's any closing remarks that you would like to add, and then we can wrap up the session.
बस मैं तो ये कहूँगा कि हमारे लिए जो इस मैगजीन में बहुत अहम चीज़ है वो ये है कि हम हिंदुस्तान और पाकिस्तान के लोगों को एक गुफ्तगू में शामिल कर लें। तो मैं आशुतोष साहब से ये गुजारिश करूँगा कि उसमें हमारी मदद करें। हाँ, और क्योंकि देखिए अब तो हिंदुस्तान से रिसाले भी नहीं आ सकते हैं और कोई आ जा भी नहीं सकता है, हमारे पास बस एक ही प्लेटफॉर्म है, और ये बहुत ज़रूरी है हमारे लिए कि हमारी गुफ्तगू आपस में जो है वो जारी रहे, हम एक दूसरे की आवाज़ सुन, हमें ये लगे कि हाँ, वहाँ पे भी हम जैसे ही लोग हैं जो हमारी जैसी ही बातें कर रहे हैं। तो जो आपने, वैसे तो ये दुनिया अब बहुत कंपेटिटिव हो गई है कि अगर कोई लकीर वाला हमारे लिए लिखने लगे तो वो खफा हो जाएंगे कि आप हमारा राइटर ले गए, लेकिन कोलैबोरेशन की जगह भी होनी चाहिए और हमें सोचना चाहिए कि हम पेशावर रिव्यू लकीर के साथ कैसे कोलैबोरेट कर सकता है, हकारा के साथ कैसे कोलैबोरेट कर सकता है, तो उस पे हमें बहुत तवज्जो देनी चाहिए और उसके मुतालिक सोचना चाहिए।
No, we love reading our writers elsewhere. Salam Award के writers को हमने publish किया है and vice versa. I saw like Indus Auguries has writers and poets, you know, who published at Indus Auguries at Lakir. So it's not like our writers or your writers, it's writers, and we are giving them a space. So it's really great. उनके पास एक, like, this is a good, exciting, growing ecosystem. कि वो अच्छा कहाँ से बजाय कि सिर्फ एक जगह उनके पास, it's great कि उनके पास multiple जगह हैं, you know, कि हम कहाँ submit करें, it's competitive for them. It's good.
बिल्कुल, और जो हमारे यंग राइटर्स हैं, आई थिंक उनके लिए ये एक आबे हयात का काम करता है टू बी एबल टू सी देयर वर्क बीइंग अप्रिशिएटेड, या उनको कोई ऐसी पजीराई मिले जहाँ पे वो कह सकें कि लोग इन लोगों ने मेरे काम को सराहा और पब्लिश किया. तो आप सब, डॉक्टर अंजुम भी बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं. आई एम थैंकफुल टू अनानके फॉर प्रोवाइडिंग दिस प्लेटफॉर्म वेयर यू नो आई कुड रीच आउट टू आशुतोष साहब एंड Farah, I know you have a really busy schedule, and Dr. Anjum also, you know, you guys all came and you know you showed your willingness to be part of this conversation. तो मैं आप लोगों की बहुत शुक्रगुजार हूँ, and I'm really thankful that you all were here. And ये conversation मुझे तो लग रहा है कि we can keep on talking about this for another hour, बल्कि few hours. Let's not stop here. मतलब किसी भी platform पे you all have each other's emails. I think it would be wonderful कि ये रुके ना यहाँ पे. ये सिलसिला जारी रहे, हम एक दूसरे से बात करते रहें, एक दूसरे से सीखते रहें. मतलब मेरे लिए इतने मैंने नोट्स निकाले हैं बिकॉज Indus Auguries is fairly young, I guess, अभी तो मेरे लिए उसमें सीखने के इतने लम्हे हैं. And I'm definitely hoping that you know we learn from each other and improve and grow. So thank you so much for that. ठीक है.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Learned a lot.